Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and I'm joined by my brother, the Gritty Broman. How are you doing, Brent?
Doing well.
Good. Today's podcast is with Dallas Hemeyer again, and this is an accidental podcast. This podcast was not meant to be. It's actually a little tangent we pulled from yesterday's show, because before we even got into the discussion of his world travel, we went off on a tangent around arrows and F.O.C, and it was a great discussion. Just two guys talking about it in a natural way, and he had gone from, fixed blade and heavy arrows and all of that to mechanicals just because
the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, and
shiny new thing.
And so then he had last season was a little rough on him. With a number of problems he had with his arrow build. So we talk about my arrow system. If you're interested in the Valkyrie or the concept behind it, it's a great discussion. And Black Eagle has come out with new outserts for their X-Impact arrow shafts, their micro-diameter shafts. And combining that with some Blood Eagle broadheads, I think you can build a pretty sweet F.O.C rig. You could throw on an iron will, which we talk about that. You could throw on an Ozcut style head. You could throw on some 150, 200 grain heads from those guys as well, which has a kind of more cut on contact design. And so we get into all of that on this show. I think you'll enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined by the Gritty Broman.
Hey, guys.
Brent Call. How are you today, Brent?
I am well, thank you.
Our guest. Who's our guest, Brent?
Dallas the Man Hemeyer.
Dallas the Man Hemeyer.
That is me. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on the show.
Always enjoy it.
Today's podcast is going to be about your psycho trips to Mongolia and some of your world adventures. It's going to be fun. Before we get into that, though, Brent and I have a little segment we like to do called Things We Hate, Things We Like. It's completely ripped it off from Ben Shapiro, but it gives us a chance to share some ideas.
Let's do it.
So, Dallas, something that I hate, okay, is when I'm hunting with someone who gets cold or tired and wants to go home. I can't deal with it.
That's a problem, especially when you have a limited time to get something done. You know what I mean? You're on your hunt. It's your time, and we're cutting into that.
There are things that I don't, particularly excel at compared to others, But one thing I can do is suffer outside for weeks on end.
I feel you.
All day. I've almost taken to either I got to have a hardcore guy that hunts with me or I got to go hunt by myself.
Because that's good to know that
I can't handle the quitters, man. I can't handle the weak ones.
And that is I think that's one of my golden rules. And I don't even know that it's a rule, but like when I'm filming a hunt or when I'm with someone, like there is no option of quitting or being the weak link. I think we've talked about this a little bit before that.
Yep.
I'm already considered the weak link. And so my mission is 100% at the end of the hunt. No one can say I was the weak link. Like, I only aided on the hunt.
Yeah. I have a very difficult time even socializing with the group, like when we're in Arizona with Randy Newberg and that team just hunting deer, until I fill my tag. Like I can't not be out hunting during legal hours of hunting. When we were in Ohio, there was freezing rain, probably no deer that are going to be moving, freezing temperatures, back and forth. My bow's covered in ice, chunked out. I'm chipping ice off the cam so I can still hunt. I'm staying out from morning till dark, dude. And I could sit in tree stand in those temperatures and not move a muscle. Just blink my eyeballs all day. No music, no radio, no nothing. Day after day after day.
Didn't everyone else you were hunting with get out of the tree stands and go to breakfast and lunch?
Multiple times.
You can't kill them on the couch.
You can't. And
speaking of that, though, I will say that's very impressive because I was just in Texas for the last week. And, man, I realized I wouldn't say I'm horrible at this, but sitting in a stationary spot is not normal for me. And when you have deer all around you, like keeping your movement to a minimum, I really like whitetail hunting. I don't know if it's because it's so polar opposite of everything I do, but this whole like patience game, I'm a fan of it.
Me too.
But the moving thing, like I know there's deer out this side of the blind and deer out this side of the blind.
You can't move.
I'm like, I want to look at these, and I was realizing it's tricky not to get caught just being like,
yeah. Same thing with cold. If you're with me and you're like, yeah, I'm too cold, I want to go home, or I'm wet and I'm tired, I don't have patience for it. I might keep my mouth shut. I might not call you names or anything, but I'm annoyed. And I'm annoyed that you want to quit. That's just how I am. That's why I'm real careful when I go hunt with my kid. It's like, okay, Dad, Brian, like, don't expect them to be like you. You going into it, I got to know.
Yeah.
I need to have some, got to chill out a little bit. But yeah.
No, I have to do that with Tori sometimes. She's hardcore, but there's sometimes that I'm just like, all right, just think of this from another perspective. Like, we've been in this blind for 10 hours.
Yeah.
We can't quit now. We have a half hour left. It's the golden hour.
Yeah, for me, I definitely struggle with people who get cold, people who, or at least they get, I don't mind if you get cold, just that you want to quit because you're cold.
Yeah.
Don't do that to me. You got anything you hate, Dallas? Things that bother you? Now's your chance. Get it off your chest.
Brian, this is a problem. Not very much bothers me. Like, I'm very easygoing.
Except for airplanes that might go down and get a little anxiety.
Yeah. I have developed some flight anxiety, and I'm trying to figure out how to get over that, but because, I sure get a lot of practice. Like, I just went to practice stand. Let me lay it out.
This flight anxiety thing, this isn't something that you ignore because it's silly. This is a legit life-threatening
I have to get
concern.
on the plane. I have to get on the plane.
Do you, though?
Do you, though?
There's some planes I don't have to. There's some planes. And even when we were going to Texas, literally, we're on the runway taking off, and they're like, power down. They're like, sorry, our computers aren't communicating with the engines. I'm like, I'm in Utah.
Okay, I flew a domestic flight within India from like New Delhi to Chennai, something like that. Sure. That was the scariest flight. The airport scared me, and the flight was scary. The airplane looked like it was just pulled out of a dumpster. And then you get on it with a lot of people who don't seem qualified to fly on a plane that seems, like I said, out of a dumpster. And then you take off on the runway, and you're just thinking, this thing's going to go down. It's like the United Emirates, like the highest crash rating airline in the world.
Yeah, I haven't looked up those specific company names because I don't want to know.
So what I'm saying is,
because I've flown on them all. Packy Air.
Well, I think this is what gets me is you went and got on the same plane that lost its engine the year before.
Yeah.
I think that's a little scary, man. I don't think this is a psychological thing you need to overcome. I think this is.
I wasn't expecting it because on the way there we got on a plane with jets, and I was like, "Jets, we're good." Jets don't bother me. Like, okay, the turbulence happens. We come in hot on the landing. We got jets. But the props, it's a prop thing. When I see the props, I instantly
flashback.
I instantly get nervous. And in Pakistan, we're flying through the Hindu Kush mountains.
There's nowhere to land.
There's nowhere
if things
to
go
land.
down.
We take off and
you're dead.
We're doing a circle. I'm like, why are we doing a circle? He's like, the pilot's like, we got to gain some elevation to get over these mountains. I was like, okay.
And hopefully we don't run out of fuel. And there's no storms. Yeah. No, Dallas,
Listen to this. I need to get this travel out there because I think this might be a discussion ourselves.
Yeah.
Take off from Utah, fly, let's say 3 hours to Seattle. Mm-hmm. From Seattle, fly 17 hours from Dubai. It's nighttime. Go to sleep. Wake up in Dubai, fly 3 hours to Karachi, drive to the outfitter's house, sleep there. Next day, go to the airport, fly 3 more hours to some other town I can't pronounce the name to. Get there. Too much fog in the Hindu Kush Mountains. Overnight again. Wait till the next day. The next day, fog clears, fly 3 more hours to get there. So to get to hunting camp, by the time we got there, I think it was 5 days.
Okay.
Markhor hunt
Mm-hmm.
happens. We can talk about that. That was awesome. Trapped for 6 days. We were like, we'll do the 19-hour drive. Like, it's fine. That's no big deal. I would do that all the time. Can't, because a significant death toll from landslides. Trapped 6 days in Gilgit before the fog will not lift, and this mountain range is so gnarly. Which I am grateful for, that the pilot says, no go, it's not safe. I'm like, there is some relief when they're like, nope, can't fly, it's not safe. It's like, all right, thank you for not trying. I appreciate that.
All right, Dallas. We'll get into that. You did tell me things you like. Have you used, you mentioned before we started, Valkyrie arrows?
No, I haven't.
You haven't used them. So these are things you might like.
Yeah, I think I would like them.
What is your experience now? Why all of a sudden maybe the Valkyrie?
All right. I've always been a fan of...
Because you started telling me this offline. I said, now save it for the podcast. I want this is you and me.
I'm a fan of heavy arrows. I've done a lot of reading and listening, and I've had some arrows that I've built with a heavy F.O.C. Mm-hmm. I've always been a fan of fixed blade broadheads. So I'm going to Texas, and I'm like, okay, I need to disprove some of these theories in my head. I've always shot, a pretty heavy arrow. I've always shot a cut on contact blade. I'm going to take this fancy new mechanical to Texas, rear deploying, some swiveling. I'm like, let's just see how this is. I mean, I'm hunting pretty small animals. I was like,
how heavy is your arrow?
530 grains.
That's still heavy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say
mechanical tip though.
Mechanical tip.
Mm-hmm.
So I shoot the first javelina. Pretty good. Arrow doesn't come. I don't think it was a pass through, because I'm pretty positive on video. Another javelina comes, grabs my arrow, pulls it out of the javelina, and runs off with my arrow. That's pretty crazy. I'm excited.
Your arrow got jacked by a rat?
You'll see.
Okay.
I was feeling okay about the first one.
Did he pull it through the opposite side?
Yes.
Then? Okay.
Yes. And so I was like,
so it was a pass through assist.
It was maybe hanging on by like the fletching, and the other javelina assisted.
Okay.
Then I shot a really nice buck.
Mm-hmm.
Did not recover it. And I'm not going to blame this on the broadhead. This wasn't the broadhead's fault. And I've always believed this. It's definitely 100% about shot placement. If I would have put that arrow where it needed to be based on some other factors, I don't think it, even if I would have gotten, half the penetration that a fixed blade would have, if you put it, behind the shoulder, in the middle of the vitals, I believe most broadheads out there coming, attached to a good arrow, coming out of the bow, put in the right spot, will kill just about any animal.
Gotcha.
Did not hit the buck in no man's zone. Above the vitals, below the spine, you know what I mean? Just in that dead area, right through the backstrap. Did not find that deer.
That's where you hit it?
I stayed for...
Is that where you hit it?
Yep.
Okay.
I stayed for... But on the video, you can see the broadhead, just the tip of it was poking out the other side. Maybe just the tip. Mm-hmm. So it didn't even... The full broadhead wasn't even out the other side of the deer, which wasn't impressed with that at all. You know what I mean? I was like, not really liking that. And then I stayed for 7 days after that looking for the buck. Never could find him. In the meantime, I shot another javelina with my bow. 20 yards, quartering away. A javelina is a pretty small animal.
Yeah.
Hit it perfect. And just the tip of the broadhead was hanging out the other side. The javelina went, 40 yards and died. But in my head, I was like, all right, I'm shooting a nice compound bow. I've got a 31-inch draw length. I'm shooting a 530 grain arrow. I would consider a javelina a very small animal on the scale.
Yeah.
And I'm not blowing through them, which wasn't a fan of that at all. I was expecting differently. I was expecting arrows, even with a big mechanical broadhead, to be blown through. Not the case I found. So
you're going to try.
I think I'm ready to go back to what I always knew to be true and what has worked very well for me.
Look,
but there's some different factors. And yeah.
I'll tell you my thoughts on it. I just interviewed Brent Hahn with Valkyrie. I interviewed the Ozcut guys, Nick Morton. I interviewed Iron Will.
Yeah,
Bill
I've shot a
few
few animals with Nick's broadheads.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I like those heavy broadheads, cut on contact kind of style that are fixed blades, simple, bone breaking. In general, they're built well. I like that setup. This year I'm going to run, some different arrow builds, but I've never seen anything like what the Valkyrie system is. And the micro diameter shaft arrow, the very, very, very little weight on the back end of the arrow, almost none. So you can really up the front end of the arrow weight, get a, 20, 21, 22% F.O.C. front of center weight up front, shoot in the wind, shoot any animal, even with a 460 grain arrow. I blew through the bone on a black bear on the way in and a bone on the way out in the front legs and shoulders. Exploded them. Like those things, even with a 175 grain tip and a much lighter shaft. My other arrow is 200 grains with a 200 grain tip with a 505 grain shaft total weight. With an 83 pound bow, it's max up as high as it'll go. And but I don't have a long draw length. I think I'm 28 inches, something like that, 28 and a half maybe. And I blow through whatever I shoot at, like bones, body, everything.
And one of the biggest things that I was thinking about is after kind of in between that all, I shot a big boar with the rifle. And we had been talking about shot placement on where to shoot these pigs because they got that big plate. And while we were skinning
that's a pig, not a javelina.
Yeah, that's a pig. And so while we were skinning it, they were like, if you're going to be shooting this broadhead, it pretty much has to be hard quartering away so you can sneak the arrow in behind that plate, whatnot. And I was like, okay, first off, that's really low percentage odds that's going to happen in the mix of everything where I'm
it's ridiculous.
super duper pumped up.
Yep.
And then when I got this pig, we were skinning it out and they were showing me the plate and everything. And I was looking at it and I was like, not a chance my arrow would have penetrated this with the broadhead that I was using. You know what I mean? I was looking at it. I was like, there's not a chance. Based on the penetration I've seen on these other animals, this plate being that thick with
seriously
fat and I mean hard. I was like, never would I shoot a mechanical broadhead.
I've talked to Brent Hahn about that, by the way. And he's like, I haven't done it with one of those heads yet, but Brent's like, he said that plate's irrelevant with the Valkyrie. Irrelevant. Yeah. It'll blow right through it. And that's been my experience. Like I said, bones are not. It comes through the other side, goes another 20 feet and buries in the dirt. You pull that sucker out of the ground, and the blade and the head looks like nothing happened to it, and it's still sharp.
And see, that's what I experienced.
Have you seen a head that you have shot through an animal, broken bones on, has gone through and then buried itself in the ground on the other side, and you pick up the head and it's not damaged? Any head, name it. I've
still pretty sharp.
Oh, it'll cut you.
Like it'll shave hair still.
No,
I've never seen it before. So I like the Ozcuts, and I have to put it through some paces. Iron Will is a great head. There's a few others, but I have not seen a head break bones, thick bones. Entire leg bones come out the other side and bury itself in rocks and dirt and still be like usable.
Yep. One of the biggest things I remember you saying about it that really has stuck with me about this system is I want to say you were talking in a podcast that you were like, there's really not a bad shot angle with this broadhead. I'm 100% confident. Whereas that was the biggest thing in Texas. That's the only thing I found myself thinking about.
Shot angles.
I'm like, wait for this angle. It could get a little better than that. Yeah. Wait for this angle. And I found myself always waiting, and I was like, I shouldn't be. I'm getting more and more excited. Like, arrow should have been gone by now. I mean, it's at a very.
I shot Big Sexy from the hip bone right above the socket, through his whole entire guts and center cavity, lungs, heart, and came out the front of his chest on the opposite side.
And went out and stuck into the dirt. You were so confident you didn't even think about the entry.
I didn't even think about the entry hole. I just put it on where I wanted it to go, where I wanted to exit. Went coast to coast on his whole body. He's not a small deer. I mean, he's a big, fat, giant-bodied whitetail. End to end. Now, can I do that on an elk? Don't know. We're find out. But I'm telling you, I'm fairly certain I can. I'm fairly certain I can.
Confidence is nice.
Most shot
Confidence
angles,
is a
and
nice
it's
thing
go
to have.
through. It'll get into the vitals, I'm sure about that. Whether it'll go all the way passing through, don't know. But I also keep in mind, we can argue all day long about whether that's the F.O.C. and that's why it does it, or whether it's the broadhead being the way it is, or that there's very little drag on the micro diameter shaft, or the vanes, or
I think it has something to do with that jack wax. I don't think people give that jack wax enough credit.
Or that it retains sharpness through the entire length of the body.
Yeah.
Most of them are dull within the first 3 or 4 inches.
Blade angle has to play a big factor in it.
I think so. I think the design of the Valkyrie, the way that it pops bones apart because it's got the long tip. Anyway, I had some bad experiences, real bad experiences with mechanicals in Alberta a couple of times. And, that was frustrating. That one film I made of the mule deer I shot in Alberta, I shot that thing 4 times. I think 4 times with mechanical blades, and it just
hybrid. No.
And like an NAP kill zone and stuff, and it just ate up momentum. The blades just sort of drug and tore. They didn't really cut.
That's what I felt. I was like, man, this is not. I was like, plenty of speed, plenty of weight. I was like, this should be blowing through,
that
not
head,
even slowing down.
You can look at that head now, and I'm like, if that hits even a rib or hits anything, it's just going to cave. It's just going to fold. Yeah. It's a shame more people aren't using better setups, and some of that is marketing, I guess. But yep, you just can't go wrong with the Valkyrie. It'll cost you some money, but you can't go wrong. Like, there's no way I'm leading someone astray.
Yeah.
Maybe there's other ways to do it that are more economical or whatever, but you can't go wrong going that direction. There's nothing really you can find fault in where there's a weak spot. It's just that there's other ways to do it, but there's nothing.
It's a pretty important aspect of the system. That's the thing that's leaving your bow and going towards your target.
Right. I agree. I think too many people focus on the bow, the sight, the release, all these things, and they just buy the cheapest arrows and they screw a set of broadheads on, mechanical, and then they go off and hunt. And unfortunately, I think a lot of animals are lost because of that, because of the arrow.
So in the one and done scenario, that's been my entire life. You shoot an arrow through something, it's gone, it's dead. I mean, the arrow's worthless. Mm-hmm. How much does the arrow cost, and how much does your broadhead cost if you're using 6?
Oh, for
on average,
Valkyrie?
yeah, not on Valkyrie. No, I'm just saying an average broadhead, your one and done type. You're talking.
Well, I will say this: that you don't, unless you lose a Valkyrie, it doesn't.
That's what I'm getting to. You've used the same 6 arrows for how many animals?
Every animal I've shot and killed, I've reused the arrow and the broadhead.
Because it's so long, you would think, obviously, something that's longer would structurally. Have you ever seen a bent tip?
Nope.
Okay.
I've shot it into rocks.
Brian was shooting into rock banks in New Zealand.
Mud rock bank, a cut bank that was cut by a tractor. And so you just see all the layers of rock and clay and mud in there. And I'm like, I had nowhere to shoot. And New Zealand's rocky. And I was like, well, so I got like 60, 70 yards back, so it would lose some momentum, and I got to find out where I'm hitting.
Yeah.
And I put my little target on the cut bank, and I shot like 20-something times into that bank.
With the same
broadhead and arrow. And it's fine. It was all dinged up, and then I sharpened it, and it's like new.
It's impressive.
And so I also
Didn't
shot
Casey
it.
shoot into that bank and blow?
A couple of them. A couple of kudu tip Easton shafts. That's what I'm saying. You can get. It's just good. Anyway,
I like
Did you know you can ask Brent
tinkering.
and he will send you a test kit?
I think they're $40 or $50 for a test kit. And then what you do is you get 3 different spines and broadhead weights combinations and collars. And then you can like shoot them all and see which one shoots the best and kind of figure that out. And then from there you can get half dozen.
Did you say you're going to switch yours up a little bit? Like arrow combinations? Because here's the thing. I have zero. I have no F.O.C. right now because I really like those FMJs. I like the weight. I like shooting them, but man, they're so heavy throughout the whole thing. You know what I mean?
You're not going to be able to build.
No, I know. You told me I couldn't build with that. And the thing is it's a 300 spine. And if I'm going to start stacking weight because of my draw length and whatnot, I'm going to have to be on like a 250. You know what I mean? Or something.
So these are the Black Eagle X Impact arrows.
Yeah, that's what you shoot.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see this, but if you're listening, we're just on the webpage here at blackeaglearrows.com. So these are the same shafts that my Valkyrie system is built out of, these Black Eagles. And Black Eagle now has a sweet collar that goes with this.
Are you going to continue to shoot the impacts?
Uh-huh. Yep.
And did I see that Valkyrie was coming out with some new broadheads this year?
They've got
like,
ones.
Are they coming out with like a full titanium? Are they already full titanium?
Valkyrie?
I think Valkyrie came out with some shafts. Mm-hmm.
But they've been primarily using the X impacts because those were the smallest diameter and the lightest and stiffest shaft you could get. That's why they were favoring that system, correct?
See this right here, this X impact component, patent pending. So for those that are listening, we're on the Black Eagle page. And this insert right here.
Is it an outsert?
Outsert. See where it says FOCOS right there? Front of center. Outsert.
Does Valkyrie make outserts?
Yes. So the Valkyrie has an outsert that allows you to screw in the center pin long Jagger broadhead. Okay. Which helps with weakness at the of the arrow snapping off behind the broadhead.
Yeah.
Black Eagle has come out with an outsert for their X Impact shaft. And
so are you saying you think the Black Eagle does it just better fit their arrows? Or are you saying there's some advantages over the Valkyrie outsert?
I'll show you in a sec. So the X Impact front of center outsert system, patent pending. This is so that you can build a heavy front of center system using different components than what Brent offers. So Valkyrie one of the benefits of having that micro diameter shaft that they make, it allows you to have a light shaft, but still maintain stiffness of spine that's needed for a heavy compound bow or, whatever long draw length. Because a lot of times in order to get the arrow to have the right spine to be stiff enough for your setup, you're going to end up having a really heavy shaft like FMJ. That means by the time you put a heavy tip on there, you're running an arrow that's 600 grains or 550, right? Yeah. Part of your problem could be too that for your setup, I don't know what speed your arrow is going, but ideally for momentum, you want to have a certain amount of speed and weight.
It's a balance.
And if your arrow goes super heavy, it might just not be the ultimate power punch like what you want. Even though it's heavy, might be too slow. So you kind of want that balance to get the best impact. And so anyway, Black Eagle has these cool inserts, and I'm going to test them out, and this is going to be part of my future build. So you can get the aluminum or the stainless steel.
Wonder what the weight difference is. Right there?
Mm-hmm. So, and if we scroll down here, you can see. So aluminum outserts total weight, they're 80 grains. Okay. And then the stainless steel ones are 100 grains. See that right there? 100 grains.
How much do you have up front on your current arrow?
I can't remember. My broadhead is 200 grains, and then I think the outsert.
So if you had this stainless steel in your broadhead, you would have 300 grains up front.
Yeah, but right now, Brent's outserts, I don't remember the weight on them. I should, but I haven't checked.
You can grab an arrow down if you want, man.
Man, these arrows are small diameter. Honestly, they almost look too small. I know they're not, but it's just like, man, that is a really, like, looking at these tiny little nocks.
Yeah, Brent really likes those fire nocks.
Okay, so here are the center pin sleeves that Valkyrie sells, right? And so you can see that they're 20 to 22 grains, right? So
yeah, that's what I would expect them to be. 100 grains.
Or 80 grains.
Yeah, you're going to want to maybe go with a little lighter broadhead. Or
right.
maybe not.
But see, look at this system, okay? You're looking at a 20 to 22 grain broad or center pin. That's their, if you go to his stainless steel center pins.
That's going to boost that weight up.
Which is what I was looking at. You're looking at 50, 75 grains, 55 grains. So when you go to Black Eagle, there's the 80 grain aluminum and the 100 grain stainless steel. Okay. Yep. But what I plan to do.
So a little heavier.
A little heavier. When you go over here, I still love Brent's broadheads.
What weights does he have in the broadheads? Because I was going to say, if these are 200, you could go down to like
150.
150. And
right.
Then it'd be the same.
Exactly. With the same front of center. That's what I'm getting at is using this setup, I can still get Brent's broadheads. See these right here? The Blood Eagles? Those those will screw into any system.
Nice. 150 to 250.
Yep. So if you get a 150 grain Blood Eagle and you couple that with a 100 grain collar from Black Eagle, you've got 250 grains up front, which is about what I'm running now with Brent's setup up front. So I can build a similar arrow to what Brent has using just Black Eagle X Impacts and their outsert and Brent's broadhead, which I'm a huge believer in Brent's broadhead. So the downside is, and this is a concern and something I want to look into. Brent offers the Blood Eagle, which is great. It can couple with any broadhead, but there's a reason why he has the center pin. You know, when you look at that center pin there, you can see that pin really helps strengthen the arrow. But a stainless steel...
So you're worried what the loss of strength could be?
Yes, because
from
think
an
about
engineering
it.
standpoint.
Think about it. You screw a Blood Eagle on the end of a Black Eagle outsert, okay? It doesn't have that center pin punching through it. So will the arrow break off behind the outsert if it goes in at a certain angle?
Be an interesting test.
Well, Brent tested it, and it does. At times, it does. When you have that much weight up front, you have a carbon shaft, and you look at the bushing there. That bushing sort of insulates as well against.
Isn't it basically like a tang for a knife?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right here, the design just kind of helps protect against that. Yeah. But the collars that Black Eagle is making, those are long. A little. They seem to me to be quite a bit bigger. And so maybe
you go further down the arrow.
Maybe they work.
So that could counteract.
Yeah.
Possibly not having the center pin.
Yeah. So really, I haven't.
Just got to test it out.
I haven't tested it out, but I think competitions is good. I love Black Eagle as a partner of mine. Brent just has built a kick-butt system. I'm going to compare the two. I still want to shoot Brent's broadhead, but I can also get a 150 grain Ozcut and couple that with the Valkyrie arrows and still get that extreme FOC.
Yeah.
And so the question for many people is, do I want extreme FOC? My experience is you do, but it's not just the FOC. Brent's broadhead is phenomenal, but I don't know. Maybe the you're going to get similar experience out of the, or the Iron Will.
Yeah. Yeah. I shot the Oscuts. That's what I shot my fallow deer with last year.
Yeah.
And it was 53 yards and my arrow went about 21 yards past the animal after blowing through it.
Get rid of those mechanicals, dude.
Gosh, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? You know why? I've been listening to too many podcasts.
Not this one.
No,
but I mean, look at these outserts. They're cool,
sometimes
man.
you just can't help but tinker, and there was no need for that.
Because
it's my own fault. I knew it was going to happen.
I just think I like these X Impact arrows. I like these outserts from Black Eagle. then I can couple that with a set of Brent's Blood Eagle. I think I'll have a pretty kick-ass system.
I like it.
With the good F.O.C. and all of that, and I like that arrow manufacturers like Black Eagle is moving in the direction of trying to build you something that has that kind of F.O.C. You're not getting that out of Easton. They have a different design. They're just overall heavy arrow. And there's lots of arguments for why that works.
Yeah, which, I mean, it definitely works,
Yep.
But
anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that show with Dallas talking about arrows. If you've got any questions, send us your questions on YouTube. We'll answer them there. Send them an email. Go to briancall.com. Contact us. DM us on Instagram. And we'll try to address your questions on the podcast. Or if we got some time, we will DM you right back. So thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty, folks.